Okay. How many of you are done with school after this class? Like, you're done for the day, you get to go home, or, okay, quite a few, okay, or before 2 o'clock. Or when you're done with your classes, you get to go hang out with friends. Well, most athletes, like football players, basketball players, I know Tristan's in volleyball, we don't have that opportunity. We go from, like me, once this class is done, I usually pack like a sandwich or two, I eat that, and then I have weightlifting, and then I have practice. Richard Sherman, he's a cornerback for the Seattle Seahawks. He was quoted by SB Nations saying, "No, I don't think college athletes are given enough time to really take advantage of the free education that they're given." And it's frustrating because a lot of people get upset with student athletes and say they're not focused on school and they're not taking advantage of the opportunity they're given. I would love for a regular student to have a student athlete schedule during the season for just 1 quarter or 1 semester. And show me how you balance that. Show me how you would schedule your classes when you can't schedule from 2 to 6 on any given day. Show me how you're going to get all your work done when after you get out at 7:30 or so. You got a test the next day, you're dead tired from practice, and you still have to study just as hard as everybody else and get the same amount of work done. Most of these kids are done with school, done with class by 3 o'clock. You've got the rest of the day to do as you please. You may spend a few hours studying, then you spend a few hours at the library checking out books and doing casual reading. And then you may go hang out with your friends and have a coffee. When you're a student athlete, you don't have that kind of time. You wake up in the morning, you have weights at this time. Then after weights, you go to class. Then after class, maybe grab a quick bite to eat. Then after you get your quick bite to eat, you go straight to meetings. And after meetings, you've got practice. And after practice, you've got to try and get all the work done you got throughout the day. And you've got to focus on your work and other focus groups. And those aren't the things that people focus on when talking about student athletes. They are upset with a student athlete says they need a little cash. Well, I can tell you from experience, I've had negative $40 in my account. Usually my account was in the negative more times than it was in the positive. You gotta make a decision on whether you get gas for your car or whether you get a meal for the day. And I could testify that what he's saying is true, because when we have to schedule classes, our coaches tell us you can't schedule from 2:15 to 6:30. And with that, you either take all morning classes, either morning and evening, or take Friday classes in. From what I've done throughout playing football here is I've taken all morning classes. And then it's tough because you gotta wake up early and then you still gotta stay at practice, and I'm usually here the whole day. I don't get to go home like most of you guys. Then taking Friday classes, I've done that during the season, and that's hard because you're in the class for 4 hours trying to drag by. And then we have this on the football team, we have this app called Team App, and the coaches somehow they sync all our meetings and when we have to go pick up our uniforms. And then on Fridays during season, we have usually from 9 to 12 is when we could go pick up our uniform, and that time I usually get a break from my class, so I usually go pick it up, then stick my uniform back in my bag. And then once my class ends, I gotta hurry up and go to our position meetings. That's like our offense and defensive meetings. And during that time, we usually going over plays or our game plan of who we're gonna play against the next day. Then after that, we have walkthroughs. What a walkthrough is, what we do is we're in our jersey and our pants and our helmet, and we're on the field going over just the plays, just walking through it. Then after that, players usually get treatment. I go and get treatment. They can range from 15 minutes to an hour or two, depending on what you want to get treatment. It could be from just getting an ice pack to getting electrical stimulation to getting an ice bath. It depends on how severe your injury is. Then he also states, you got one or two choices. People think, oh, you're on scholarship. They pay for your room and board. They pay for your education. But to their knowledge, you're here to play football. You're not on scholarship for school. And it sounds crazy when a student athlete says that, but for those that are the things that coaches tell you every day, you're not on scholarship for school. Luckily, I was blessed to go to Stanford, and a school that was primarily focused on academics, so it was a blessing. It was a little bit better. As Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is a coach. He was a coach for the San Francisco 49ers, and now he's coaching for the University of Michigan. He says within that quote, with a test, we were also there for football, but there were still guys like Andrew Luck who majored in engineering, an incredibly tough road to take when you're in football because a lot of those classes conflict with your time as a football player. You have engineering class from 2 to 3:30. There's no way you can do both. You can't go to meetings and make an engineering class from 2 to 3:30. So what do you do? Do you switch your major, or do you tell your coach, hey, I've got an engineering class from 2 to 3:30, and I have to go to that? That's a conflict of interest. That's what people don't realize, but it's something that hurts the bottom line in a lot of people's lives. So I don't think it'll be something that will be addressed. And that's true, because most of the times where I want to take a certain class for my major, kinesiology, and I can't take it because of football. And there's times where I either schedule it in the morning or just don't take the class at all. Like my brother told me, one of the professional football players, well, he's retired now, Arian Foster. He was in astrology major, and then the classes he wanted to take, he couldn't take them because of the time conflict, so he completely switched his major. A lot of the schools, they make their money from other sources, but they mainly make their money from the athletes. And the main sports that mainly make the money for the school are basketball and football. Tiffany Patterson from Smart Asset says there was an $11 billion deal between the NCAA and CBS Turner Sports for March Madness between 2011 and 2024. Now that's a lot of money, $11 billion, and none of that's being trickled down to the athletes. It's all going to either people advertising it or just the school. And the athletes, they don't see a dime of that because they're just there to be there. Then once after winning the championship that they went for the school, they're back on a bus going back to school. And when they win that championship for the school, no money was given to the athlete. Like for me, when we won our state championship or our national championship, we had to pay for our rings. The school didn't. And everyone that I talked to, like, oh, we won, and they ask, are they gonna pay for your ring? And I tell them no. They give me like a weird puzzle, be weird to look, like, well, how come you guys won? And same goes for the people at the universities. They gotta pay for their rings, and they're at a higher level, and the rings are a little bit nicer than the ones we got. And when I read that, it made me think of like when people are like at a regular job, their bosses or the supervisors, managers are giving out bonuses for the work that they're supposed to be doing already. Well, it made me think, well, us as an athlete, we won the championship. Well, we were supposed to go out there and win it, so why not get a little compensation or a little money, like a bonus? Many athletes practice every day. It's not like a regular class where, like this class, it's Monday and Wednesday. We have practice every day, Monday through Thursday. And it's not like we get to take a day off and like say like how I did it sometimes in here, like I don't feel like going, I'm too tired, I'll just go to practice. Well, at practice, if you miss a day, you miss 2 days. You don't get the opportunity just to take a day off. And then when you practice every day, like if it's game day, and then when game day comes, it's like practice, but someone's trying to take your head off, basically. You're competing against someone else, and it's just more physical. You're going actually full contact. At the university levels, they have morning practices, weightlifting, evening/afternoon practices, or and night practices. Jared Walsh from USA Today says the NCAA has a regulation that is intended to limit training for players to 20 hours per week, Would you be surprised to learn that very few athletes reported only practicing 20 hours per week? According to a NCAA survey conducted in 2011, Division I football players average 43 hours a week. They average that many because they have morning, evening, and sometimes night practices. I could say we probably average at least 20 hours a week, and that's probably like 2 hours of practice, and they get way more than that. Michael Bennett he's also Seattle Seahawks, he's a defensive lineman. He says on SB Nation, I think the NCAA is one of the biggest scams in America because these kids put so much on the line and they study hard. They play football as hard as they can, but if they do not crack the NFL, then the NCAA says, we give you a free degree. That's like me owning a restaurant and saying, I'll give you a free burger. I'm just giving you something I already have. Athletes don't get enough credit, and that's a lot, a lot of the schools don't really do anything for guys after they graduate. I think there are very few schools that actually care about the players. When I was in college, I'd be going to class, some student comes to me and says, I pay your tuition. I'm like, you don't pay my damn tuition. My mom paid my tuition when she worked 2 jobs, and I woke up every morning at 6 a.m. and I worked hard. To think about it, it makes me sad and irate that people are so simple-minded when it comes to something like this. There's 4 different levels. There's Division I, Division II, and Division III, then NAIA. Division I and II hand out scholarships. Division III doesn't. The most you can get is grants or financial aid, but even that's not even a lot to cover a whole semester. And to wrap it all up, the athletes go to the classes early. They don't have really much to eat. If they do, like at a university, have a meal plan, it's either 3 meals and that's it. I remember seeing a while back, like maybe a year ago, a player from the University of Oregon. He says that some people that need to maintain weight, gain weight, or lose weight, and the people that need to gain weight, they have to eat double up on the portions. And when you have like only 3 meals, how could you double up on your portions? And for a guy like me, I know I look skinny, but I can eat a lot. I could probably eat as much as like probably 2 or 3 people. And then when you try to eat more, all the time, all the money adds up, and then they just really don't have a lot of the financial aid they could to purchase all the needs they want. They don't have much time to fully take advantage of the free education they have. Classes interfere with the sport, and the colleges, they make most of the money from the big from the athletes, and no money is sent down to the athletes. Thank you.
Alvaro, what'd you think?
I like your topic. I like how you want colleges to compensate student athletes for what they do. I like how, since you're a student athlete, it kind of boosts your kind of credibility and overall makes the speech better. You include good sources, and you don't really rely on your note cards except when stating quotes. However, the Richard Sherman quote was pretty long. I feel like you could have cut some parts out to make it more effective. Also, the transitions for me, at least, were kind of hard to notice. They weren't very clean. You seemed very engaged, and there's a lot of variety in your voice. You seem very passionate about this topic since you yourself are a student athlete. But overall, I thought the speech was really good.
Okay. Yeah, the audience survey is a little bit like I said, it's okay at the beginning. I think the quote from Richard Sherman is good, but Alvaro's right, it goes on a long, long time, and it probably would have been better to break some of that up. And one of the problems with that long quote is that you spend so much time reading it, you don't really look up at us for the first couple of minutes of the speech. It's like you are completely disengaged from us, and except for your attention device. When you're asking the question, and you're talking, then you're doing great. And then you go to the quote, and it's like you just disappear for 2 minutes while you're going through the quote. And I think that takes us out of the presentation. I wasn't exactly sure what your purpose statement is. I guess at the end, Alvaro's picked out the notion that you think athletes should be compensated in some way beyond whatever compensation they currently get. I think it's an interesting idea to talk about, but it's going to need a lot more development than we get here, because a lot of what we get here simply seems like it's a opportunity to review what a tough life people have. And by the way, I think that you do get some credibility because you're using your firsthand experience. That helps a little bit. You do want to be careful, though, about sounding like you're whining about things, because that's not going to get your audience sympathetic towards you unless you can give them a good example of some consequence that you suffer and the sacrifice that you have. And that's why I think you need to be a little bit more direct. The quote from Sherman, I think, works really well. The one from Bennett, I think, is a little bit more self-serving. The notion that, the analogy that he draws to a restaurant, like I own a restaurant and I'm giving away a burger, I'm giving away something I already have. Well, if it was just a burger, it's, by the way, a burger's $10 nowadays, so that's not without some value, depending upon the university that you're playing. I don't remember which university Bennett went to. I suspect it's Alabama, but, I'm not positive about that. It could have been Auburn. You're talking about maybe $200,000 worth of education, and I think that, that seems like it's pretty substantial. I think there's an argument to be made here that athletes get neglected sometimes, and that neglect comes in the form of being taken for granted, not being given some of the breaks that they might have, the difficulty with which they have trying to do two things at once. One of the things that concern me is that you've got information that says that the NCAA is supposed to be restricting their activities to 20 hours of practice time a week, and they're doing double that. And I'm going, well, wait a second, how the hell is that happening? Why isn't somebody cracking down on that? That sounds like it's a violation of the rules. Why is that not an issue? Just the way the lack of compensation is an issue. That seems like it should be something that you're talking about as well. The organizational structure, I couldn't really pick out an organizational structure. It just seemed like it was, issue by issue, not enough time for school, not enough food to eat, not enough, too much time to have to practice. You want to be careful about a couple of things. The one example of the person who had to change their major, I'm sure that they weren't an astrology major, they're probably an astronomy major. If we have an astrology major, that would be a little weird at most universities, but maybe, I don't know. That seems odd. The delivery, like I said, your eye contact is problematic. Your gestures are limited because of that. And in case you didn't know, the time, it was 13 minutes and 6 seconds, so it exceeded the time limit substantially, or like a third over. So we've got to be careful about that. All right. Thank you.